he shares with the audience. So now we're going to invite Mr. Jim Dunn to share his insights on how to change the thought patterns and become a more, to have higher performance in your careers. So thank you for coming from UK to join us.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Jim Dunn, and I'm very pleased to be at this conference today, and really it's a privilege to have the opportunity of talking to you. I represent the Pacific Institute. We're a global consultancy based in Seattle, in Washington, and we have offices around the world. I'm connected with the UK operation based in London. We're also very pleased to be here in Macedonia now with our partners, Borsch Elioski and Igor Noveski. Borsch is a member of Macedonia 2025, and they're licensed and able to deliver some of the programs that can transform your thinking. We are behavior and culture change specialists. We work with private and public sectors, with businesses, with government departments, with education establishments, with voluntary institutions, and so on. But I'm not here to actually promote our company, but to talk about, the title is The Thought Patterns of High Performance People. That's my theme. The research shows that 18% of the population think in ways that cause them to succeed, and the other 82% think in ways that cause them to fail. My question to you all is this: which group do you belong to? Are you part of the 18% or are you part of the 82%? Our job is to get the 82% thinking like the 18%. And if you're going to act like a high performer, you've got to think like one first. And there's technologies and processes that can actually help you to get there. There really are. It's not an art, it's a science. But the thought patterns of high performance people. I get straight to the point and say to you that there would appear to be 4, possibly 5, patterns of thought that are common to most high performance people. Now, what I'm saying to you now is psychologically sound. It's well researched. You won't find a psychologist anywhere in the world worth his salt that will disagree fundamentally with what I'm about to share with you. Here is the first one: self-efficacy. Efficacy is the power to make things happen. Self-efficacy is my belief about my ability to cause something to happen. It is your causative power. Professor Albert Bandura out of Stanford University in the US, with whom we work, has led most of the research in this area in recent years, and his research shows that high performers, without exception, all have got high levels of self-efficacy. And in a major piece of work, which is well worth reading about, called Self-Efficacy, the Exercise of Control, Bandura found this. He said, most of the goals that we set, privately and organizationally, are not based on our ability to achieve them, but on the beliefs that we hold about ourselves. Amazing. People with high self-efficacy attempt big things. People with low self-efficacy avoid the challenge. I wonder if you found that. The greater the level of self-efficacy you have, the bigger the goal you set. You can set big goals, but if you have got low self-efficacy, you're wasting your time, because your mouth will be saying one thing, but your mind will be saying something else. You can't short-circuit this. Bandura says we dream too close to the end of our noses. And by that he actually means if you don't believe you can make it happen, whatever it is, then you won't even let yourself think about it. Now the good news is that self-efficacy can be developed. You're not stuck with the level that you're at right now. Research shows that self-efficacy derives from at least 4 major sources, and the previous speaker was actually hinting at that. You ought to listen to that again when he talked about exposure in foreign countries and the like. It's what we call vicarious experiences, social persuasion, relaxation, and renewal. The self-efficacy derives from these major sources. You can access them in order to enhance and increase your causative power. Self-efficacy. A second thought pattern that high-performance people possess relates to the kind of self-image that they have. A self-image is not the kind of thing you see when you look in a mirror or when you take a selfie using your mobile phone. A self-image is the kind of belief you have about yourself. It's you describing to you the kind of person that you believe yourself to be. And you don't just have one self-image, you have thousands. And this is important because once you get it fixed in your mind, this is the kind of person I am, then you go out and you act like it. You see the way your mind works? We have 3 components to our mind. We have a conscious mind, we have a subconscious or depth mind, which acts like a kind of and we have a creative subconscious mind. And the creative subconscious mind has got 4 functions, and one of them is this. It's to make sure that the picture on the outside, if you will, always matches the picture on the inside. And that leads to self-regulation. Just as the thermostat in this room is keeping the temperature at a certain level, so human beings, that's you and I, we self-regulate our performance. But we don't, the problem is, we don't self-regulate our performance at our potential level, at what we are capable of. The problem is we self-regulate our performance at the belief level, what we think we're capable of. And this self-image not only drives performance, it regulates performance. So here's a funny thing. If I perform better than I believe myself to be, do you know what I do? I do something daft. I sabotage my success. I compensate for the mistake of being too good for me. I say, it was nothing. I got lucky. Sports people do it all the time. Football teams do it all the time. Business people do it. We actually all do it. As well as correcting for the mistake of underperforming, we raise our game. We also correct for the mistake of doing better than we believe ourselves to be, and we sabotage our own success. Now, high performers have got what we might call a positive self-image that leads them to succeed. And low performers have a negative self-image that causes them to fail. Now, the good news again is that this self-image of yours can be modified. It can be modified to give you what you want. A mentor, for example, will often see in you what you don't see in yourself. But there's sometimes you need to be a mentor to yourself. Self-image. And that leads me to mention quickly and briefly a third pattern of mental activity, and it has to do with the way that you speak to yourself. We all talk to ourselves. We do. Just listen next time and you'll actually see that you do. Listen to what it is that you're actually telling yourself and what you're actually saying to yourself. We all talk to ourselves, and the fact is, you need to know this, that we build our own self-image that we've just been talking about with our own self-talk. I'm from Glasgow in Scotland. I left school at 14 with no qualifications whatsoever, and the message ringing loudly in my ears that I would never amount to anything, because our kind never did. We were too poor. We were too badly educated. We were an underclass. And the problem is, if you give sanction to those ideas, you know what that means? It means you agree with it. If you give sanction to those ideas, they become a part of you. Thoughts accumulate to become beliefs, and beliefs solidify until they become themselves into a self-image, and then you've got to go out and act like it. You've got to go out and act like the person you believe yourself to be. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. We can't do it any other way. So my advice is be careful how you speak to yourself. And be careful how you speak to others. And be careful how you let others speak to you. High performers speak to themselves in a way that is different to the rest of us. The internal dialogue that's going on in their minds is different. How do they do it? It seems that first-person experiential imagery, sorry to use that kind of phrase, works best. There's many components to it, but broadly it's personal. You'll find they use the word I and we a lot. It's present tense. They never say, I want to do this, I'm going to do that, I wish I could, I ought to do that. Doesn't do any good at all. But you'll find the language is like this: I am, we are. High performance people, people like Richard Branson and other big names that you know, they speak of the future as though it had already happened. The building is built before it's even in the mind. It's built before it's even on the ground. They speak of the future as though it had already happened. And it's positive. In this sense, they're focused upon what they want and not on what they don't want. High performance people think about what they want. They don't think about what they don't want. Try that for starters. Stop thinking about what you want to get away from and start thinking, focus upon what it is you want to get to. Because we move towards it, we think like what we think about. We move towards it, we're drawn to what we actually think about. Finally, the mindset of high performers is seen in the way they set their goals. They set the goal first without knowing how they're going to achieve it. That's important. The goal comes first and the plan comes later. They just know that they can do it, but they don't know how to begin with. You ought to try that. Concentrate on what it is that you want, on where you want to be. Don't worry about how you're going to get there. Never let the how question arise, because it will limit you. Just focus upon what you want, and how will come later on. Here's a rule. Your goals should be just out of reach, in the sense, I don't know how I'm going to get there, but they should be not out of sight. Goals should be just out of reach, but not out of sight. You've got to be able to see yourself doing, being, having the thing that you're talking to yourself about. It's like this elastic band here. My right fist is current reality. That's the way things is for you now. I set a new goal. That's my left hand. And now the elastic band is in tension. That tension is to be encouraged. When you set a new goal or a new aspiration, you throw your system out of order. And you get tremendous energy and drive and creativity in order to restore order. That's another function of your conscious, subconscious mind. Now, you can get rid of the tension in two ways. One way to get rid of the tension would be to give up on the goal, that it was a bad idea. I should never have thought of it. You get rid of the tension, you feel a lot better now, you've given up on the goal. That's what we do most of the time. Another way is to move towards the goal. And your creative subconscious is very powerful. It can provide you the solution every time. It can help you to get out of things, but it can help you to know how you can actually move forward. The system is thrown out of order when you set a new goal and you restore order to bring it back to the way it ought to be. Which direction will you go in, though? Will you move towards the goal, or will you give up on the goal? That depends. It depends on the way you think. It depends on what is the most dominant image. And your job is to make what you want more dominant and more desirable than where you are at the moment. That is actually how big thinkers, high performers actually think. They always think about what they want, and they make what they want more desirable and more appealing than what they have now. Setting goals. I'm nearly finished. It was written somewhere, as a man thinks in his heart, so is he. Does that mean if I change the way I think, I alter the way my life goes? The answer is not entirely, but greatly. Finally, a word about self-esteem. High performers have high levels of self-esteem. You need that. You have a strong sense of self-worth. You need to say to yourself, I am a valuable and important person, and I'm worthy of the respect and the admiration of all those people that matter to me. You need to say that. So there it is. Self-efficacy, self-image, self-talk, and goal-setting. These are the things, and you can learn them. You can acquire these things. You're not born like it or born with it. You can grow into it and be helped to develop in that way. I look out on you now and I see greatness in you. I really do. You have potential to do great things. It just needs to be brought out. And I pray that it will. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much for this 10-minute inspirational speech. You can imagine how I felt after spending 2 full days with Mr. Jim Dunn on a full session. So, does anyone have a question for Mr. Jim Dunn? Please go ahead. Yes, you can ask the question directly because it's going to take too long to take them up.
What would be the, let's say, the best tip that you can give us for eliminating negative self-image?
2 things. Focus, first of all, on what it is that you want. That's never negative, it's always positive to actually do that. And the other thing is, in terms of thinking about, I'm not making myself very clear here, in terms of thinking about what you want, avoid thinking about what you don't want. I think that would be the way to do it.
So, in a way, just focus on what you really, really want.
Yeah. The problem you'll have in focusing on what you really, really want is if you've got low self-efficacy, if you don't really believe it can ever happen for you, then there's no strength in it and no power in it. You need to do what this man said and strengthen your level of self-efficacy and get to a point where you believe you can make it happen. And then having got to that point, you then continue to focus on what you want and make it desirable, and you'll begin to move in that direction. Everything flows from this. All the other stuff about needing more than attitudes and the like really comes from this thought process.
Thank you for your question. Does anyone else have a question? Yes.
How can you get out from the vortex of negative events, unpleasant events, or unsuccessful issues?
Yeah, again, I think you have to focus very clearly on where you want to be. There's always what we've found when we've talked to people and when we've measured culture and things like that. People always have a picture in their mind of where they would like to be, and if you focus upon that, that will begin to lift you out of where you actually are now. It's not a very clear answer that, but it's the problem with only having 10 minutes is nobody believes you in 10 minutes. You need a lot more. If I could explain to you, and maybe don't need to explain to you how your mind actually works. We're not where we hoped to be, and why is that? Something has got us there. And the thing that got us there, the same process can get you actually out of there. That's the way to do it.
Mr. Jim Dunn is here for you, so after the session ends, you can catch up with him and ask him more questions.